Hey everybody, how's it going? Just gonna do some little snips. I have my harness and I'm starting to thread it right through the intake. I taped up some of the connections and I'm gonna start threading it through. Things like this. This is the fuel pump wire, trigger wire. Also, it says it's a square wave tack signal that would come out if you wanted to run a tachometer. I haven't really figured out what I'm going to do for gauges yet, but I believe I'm going to buy electronic gauges, probably decoded digital, because I think it has like a little module that just plugs right into the Terminator and everything runs right off of the Terminator. So it's a real good way to set everything up. Everything is already hooked through the Terminator, and rather than just wire everything one by one, I think I'm just going to go ahead and probably go that route. It's a little expensive, but I guess I'll probably have to bite the bullet. I bought a new gauge panel and some new gauges earlier, so I may end up putting those up for sale and seeing if I can make a little bit of money, get a little bit of money back out of those. So anywho, that's what I'm doing, having fun, just rerouting wiring, trying to thread the wiring into the car and get to where I can start plugging some of this stuff in and seeing where I'm at. So thanks, I'll be back. Okay, I'm moving along here. I've got my harness kind of snaked in. I've got my throttle position sensor plugged in, my idle air control plugged in, coolant temp sensor over here, got that plugged in. Got one side of my coil harness, I don't know if you guys can see it in there, got one side of that plugged in. Got a few things sitting up here on the top, and I'm kind of threading the wiring down in through here. Gonna try to push it in between my valve cover and my firewall so that I can loop it around and then come right back up underneath my brake booster and go right in here through the firewall under my brake booster. There's a big old hole under there, so plenty of room to get everything through there. There's a relay in there. The main plugs for hooking into the Terminator are there. So again, on this side, I got a plug sitting here. This is for my coils. That's a coil plug. I got to fish out the other side of that harness in there. And all I'm doing is just kind of keep running my arm through the middle and finding cords, finding plugs, trying to figure out how to route them through here and kind of unwind them the best that I can. So that's what I'm doing, little by little. Okay, I'm getting there little by little. I'm gonna have to take my fuel pressure sensor that I just made the video about, this little sucker right in here, and I'm gonna have to loosen it up and flip it upside down, because there's a cable connector laying right there under it. You can see with the little yellow kind of grommet, and that's the wire that needs to hook to it, and it's not long enough to get up over the top. So I'm gonna have to loosen those fittings and drop that thing down, just kind of take it and just pivot it down so that I can reach it with that cord down there. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Looking at these other wires, this is the crank position sensor. That is down here on the passenger side underneath. I'm gonna have to see if I can run that down behind the transmission, behind the valve cover, and to the crank position sensor. But little by little, got my vacuum line laying out here in the middle of nowhere. Got quite a few things hooked up. It's looking good as far as my harness you can see the harness. If I can snake down through here, you can kind of see the harness with the fuel pump wires and stuff like that. And I don't know if you can tell, but there's a hole right next to, or right behind where those wires are. I don't know if you can see it. I think you can see light through it, but there's a hole right there. So that's where I'm probably gonna have to get a big grommet or something, and I'll use that hole. I was trying to figure out what that was for. I think that was for the shifter on a column shift. So I'm probably gonna use that and just put those wires through there with a grommet. And just, like I said, just little by little, trying to fish connectors out. I've got my other coil connector sitting right here in the back, just kind of waiting for me to do something with it. I've got my oil right here. Here's my oil pressure, and the cam sensor. Those are both right down here in the back, right on the back of the engine. So right on the back of the valley cover. So little by little, just putting along, tearing skin off my hands, trying to find connectors. I got my knock sensor connectors plugged in, so I'm definitely getting there. And I just looked underneath, and I got a whole bunch of cable sitting down under here. So I definitely have room to route this thing up underneath the booster and up underneath the dash to the computer. So I'll work on that after I kind of get this top side stuff done. So continuing on. Okay, everybody, after, I don't know how long it took me, a couple hours, everything is routed. Got everything plugged in here. Got all the wires going through the intake. Got it kind of unrat's nested back there. Tried to untangle everything and kind of put it everywhere, you know, that it kind of looks like it should go, instead of having a big rat's nest back there. But it's a whole harness of stuff going all different ways. So the only thing I have left right here, this is for the map sensor, manifold pressure, manifold absolute pressure, and it is back here sitting right there, and for some reason I can't get it to plug in. So probably tomorrow I'm going to get a mirror out, see if I can't look at the connection on it, or I'm just going to loosen the bolt and take the thing out. So I ran the harness down the back of my transmission, came down, if you can see it through here, came right back up and went right through the firewall. So that's where I ended up running my harness. So for right now, my list is my map sensor, my crank sensor. I have the wire laid down over on that side, but I did not get underneath the car and connect it. And also, can kind of see it down there, but there's a ground on the back of the head, and there's a couple of grounds on this harness. One ground goes to the driver's side head, one ground goes to the passenger side head. So those are on my windshield list. I don't know if you can see it, probably can't with the glare. I have a windshield list. I just kind of scribbled some stuff on the windshield. And also I have my wideband O2 sensor. So I got that out. This is the one from Holley. This is a wideband, and it's got a little adapter on it that adapts to the harness, and it is going to install right down here on my turbo manifold. Right now there is one installed there, but that was just a stock O2 sensor that I just kind of put in there just to have something in there. So everything looks pretty clean. A few of the connectors, I believe it's the coil connectors, are white. I don't know if I'll have to maybe take those apart, fish those out, and maybe spray paint them black so that you really don't see them inside of the intake. Have to kind of keep an eye out. When you're looking at it from the side of the engine, you see them a little bit, but not horribly. So there's also all of these little white labels on all of the wires. So I don't know if I'll take all those white labels off, or maybe spray paint those black, or do something with them. Under here for my manifold air temp, the wire was long enough to reach where I put the sensor, so I was really happy about that. So just continuing along, I got the harness all the way through the firewall. I laid it in here. I don't know if you can see under there where it comes right here through the firewall, and there's a relay on it, and here's the connections that hook up to the computer. Also right here hanging out of my glove box, this is the transmission harness. This is the end of the transmission harness, and those are the connectors and the few wires that I have that I need to hook up for those. So I guess I'm going to have to start spending some time, because here's my spaghetti wiring from my new wiring harness. This is what I've got inside of my car, just all these wires hanging out, have the gauge cluster out. So I'm going to have to start doing some wiring. I'm going to have to start figuring some wires out. Probably, here's my headlight harness. This harness right here, this is all the headlight wires that go up front. So I'm probably going to have to stuff those out somewhere and run those up front. But I'm definitely going to have to mount my computer, and I'm going to have to start plugging in some connectors, doing some wiring. I do have the other harness over here, and it's just laying here on the ground. This is the power harness for the Terminator. So this is going to run right back along the inside of the car, and I'm going to hook that right up to the battery. So that's fused. So I think that's what I'm going to do with that. So that's kind of where I'm ending up today. I think I'm going to call it a day for this one. I don't know if I'll throw this up or sit on it for a little while. I'll just see how much I got. Thanks. So yeah, I think this is where I'm going to end up today. I hope everybody's having a great day. And me, I've just been out in the garage playing around, trying to get this thing one step closer to running. Thanks, you guys.